There, John. Hello. Hi, John. How are you doing today? Test 1, 2, 3. Good afternoon. It's Greg Ellers, host of the Employment Roundtable with my co-host Alex. And today we have the benefit and pleasure of having David Arbital, executive hospitality leader. He's acclaimed in the industry, multiple concepts. He's run groups as much as $100 million in top line and annual revenue. David, welcome to the show today. I appreciate you taking the time out and look forward to having a great conversation with you today.
Thank you very much. I'm thrilled to be here.
That's great to hear. Alex, how are you doing?
I am fabulous. It's Friday and it is finally sunny in Boston. So I had the pleasure of getting to meet David through a regular course of business in the recruiting world, and I'm very happy to have you here, David. Very much looking forward to some of your feedback on what's happening in our industry.
Thanks so much, Alex. I'm happy that the weather is finally turning up there in the Northeast.
Yeah.
The funny thing about the Northeastern weather is I lived there for 20 years. You always get excited when the weather turns, but then it still reminds you you're in the Northeast not too long after it gets nice. So
Yeah.
hopefully you get a little respite for a while. So as I introduced David, David's an industry veteran with a lot of experience, a lot of insight to what's actually going on, because post the COVID world, post the changes in dining experiences, there's a lot of things that we can touch on. And I think we're going to start today, David, if it's all right with you, to talk a little bit about the upskilling and the technology in HR, which possibly, and I want to get your insight on this, is not allowing some people that might have skills because of the algorithms, because of the technology and things, to actually be a candidate for a job. That's point one. And then point two, because of the algorithms and quote unquote keywords and things like that, people might be massaging some of their skills a bit to be able to be a candidate for a job. So we've got the two different dynamics. People like me that have been in stretch roles that would be great candidates, and we're not getting that opportunity because of technology, because of the way things work. And then others who may not actually be qualified for that job being given the opportunity because of the keywords and what they may say about their actual level of employment. And that has to be a challenge for somebody like you trying to fill positions in the industry. And maybe you could touch on a little bit of that if you would.
Absolutely. Thank you. So yes, this dynamic is changing, especially with the fantastic boom of AI. You know, years ago, hiring managers, HR, and recruiters, they were the gatekeepers of AI with the keywords by reading resumes. Now they don't even get the opportunity to put eyes on them because the computers are removing them. So we need to find new ways to get around that, right? Because there's cons that we just spoke of where we don't get to see them, or hiring managers don't get to see resumes of people that are otherwise qualified just because maybe a few keywords are missing. But we do get the benefit of really being able to hone in from a hiring perspective on who we want, especially when there's 500 applicants to one job posting within 36 minutes. You know?
Right.
And so there's a big difference between skills and experience. And I think that people that are seeking jobs need to understand the differentiation, because these algorithms are looking for keywords and they don't know necessarily, at least not yet, what is the difference with that word, with the context of a skill versus experience. So just because we don't have the experience doesn't mean that you don't, let's, for instance, building a budget or understanding a P&L, specific line items, maybe adjusting them, or training someone on how to do it, or communicating your thoughts on what the driver is to ownership. You might not have done it, but you might have the skill to do that. So you can include that skill on your resume to help get past these gatekeepers. And it's not lying or fibbing. You can possess a skill to execute something without executing it in the past. And as long as we make that differentiation on the resume to say that you do possess the skills to analyze financial statements, whether or not you did that in a professional setting is irrelevant because you do have the skill to do it. So we need to communicate to hiring managers that these are our skills and maybe not necessarily our experiences, but there's a big difference between the two. Another thing is with these words and how to bypass these algorithms, there's only so much room on that resume. So we can, put 500 or 600 keywords, make it font size 1, change the color 1, put it on the bottom of the margin. Now they're there, right? And that's helping get you through that gatekeeping process. And keep in mind those skills, they must be true, because if you get the job, you need to perform the skills. Don't lie. But it's surprising how many skills you have if you sit there and write it down. I think that sometimes candidates might undersell themselves, right? They might say, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? Yeah, I can do that. Okay, but it's not on your resume. Why not? Include it there. Include it on there. Really brag about yourself on the resume. It needs to have every single great thing about you. And if we think about it, there's many great things about us.
What
Another
just on that point though, because when someone does a resume or positions a person by writing their resume, the hiring manager, when they look at something, they only have time to look at so much. And it seems to be a potential firewall for me to write my resume and say a lot of things, because the hiring manager is never going to actually really look and read. They just want the high level.
Right.
And that's the way they've been trained now. Does that make sense, David, from the standpoint of, I can't, if I say, Greg Ellers has these skills and I give actual real world experiences to them because they're essential to that job, it might be too many words that take away from something else, so I cut it down. Or if I put too much, people are like, this guy's, he's writing a book here. The bias or the behavioral lens from the hiring side, I guess what I'm coming to is, they're not really trying to do a lot of hard work. They're just trying to get to a person that fits the suit versus really doing the hard work to see if there's somebody underneath. Is that a fair way to say that, David?
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important for the word choice that we use and to eliminate the filler words. Every word that's on, if I'm going to describe myself as a hospitality professional that has done XYZ, I'm going to make sure that I communicate that using the words of the skill set that they're looking for, right? Imagine that you're an SEO professional. So all of the words that they're going to search for, both visually and through use of computers, need to be embedded within the language of the summary, within the language of the bullet points where we describe the achievements. You can hide these keywords in there and make sure that you're word engineering your resume appropriately, and also say, okay, what's my elevator pitch? What's my 10-second pitch to a hiring manager? Okay, that's the greatest thing about you. Make sure that that's very easy to read in a good place that's not too jumbled in the resume. Highlight those key achievements quickly so that a person, if they want to be interested in your novel, they can read it. But if they're not, and you have 8 seconds to make an impression, within 8 seconds, if I can visually understand why I should continue to read, then you did your job as a resume creator.
That makes sense. Alex, do you have anything to add there?
I do actually. I mean, well, first of all, regarding what you're talking about with the resume, I completely agree. I come from a sales background, and it's a performance-based job. I understand every job is a performance-based job, but sales it was specifically. And when I initially got started in the industry, my resume, because I gave concrete examples and my resume was just too many words. It was too much content. And it was not only not visually pleasing, but it was like reading a book. And so what I ended up doing was I had my front page of the resume, and then I did an accomplishments sheet. And the accomplishments sheet was just bullet points of career highlights. And I will say that that accomplishments sheet is what got me the interviews. And that was usually the only document that they referenced during the interview process. Was, you know, going after the quick abbreviated version of the highlights of my career. So I completely agree with you on that, David. And I love what you were talking about with word engineering. And the other thing that I just wanted to bring up that you had mentioned when skill versus experience, something that I have seen, which I really like recently on resumes, but this seems to be a trend that is coming up a little bit, is when you have, say, a stay-at-home mom who took a 4-year break to raise 2 young kids. They are now, once they're ready to enter back into the workforce, they're actually putting as part of their resume home manager, and you know, all the skills and things that were exercised when they were at home taking care of the kids, because there are skills that you get as being just from being a parent. You know, it's a full-time job. Everybody always says it's the hardest job that they've ever had. So I completely agree with you that there are skills that you can have, and it doesn't have to always be job related, but it could pertain to the job you are applying for. And I think that's important for people to remember and recognize and make sure to highlight on their experience as well.
That's a good point, Alex. David, pivoting just a bit here. So why don't you share with us in today, what are the biggest trends in employment and management employment for hospitality under 3 different points? First, people coming back to the workforce that may have been in a different industry but have the skills for hospitality. Is there much of an appetite there? Loyalty. Loyalty meaning being able, what is the trend now, because the labor market's been tight and obviously in hospitality turnover's high. Are you finding that different leadership groups are becoming more cognizant of trying to retain their employees through a better process so they don't get that turnover, and I don't go from one big box restaurant or hotel to another one because I didn't get an opportunity? And lastly, and probably the most important, where has the level of customer service? We used to have a lot of customer service in a different way, and that's, we could go on a website and find a phone number, and I could call and I could say, David, this is Greg, this is my number, I'm having a problem, and you were able to help me. That's all gone. On most websites, everything's being done by AI or bots or something like that. So it diminishes my already initial experience with a restaurant or a hotel or something like that, because I have to accept that. How are companies adopting or adapting to the fact to enhance the customer experience when they get there, because they never really had a conversation in the first place with the client when they came to your location, because you never talked to them? And if I have to put in a open table or at a hotel to request something because it's an anniversary, a birthday, or some sort of celebration, I'm hoping they get it and it's understood, but there's a probability that that gets overlooked. So those are the 3 things, because of technology, because of the demographics in the tight labor market. What are some of the ways people are addressing those? And are those front and center for a lot of people that you're working with or you engage with in your business community there?
Thank you. All great points. So to unpack that, let's go one at a time with trends as far as people coming back. To be honest, I don't see a lot of it. You know, there was a time during COVID where people were leaving the hospitality business to become FedEx drivers or various other industries, and I haven't seen them come back. I haven't. Yeah, there was a I wouldn't say massive exodus, but there was certainly an exodus in the hospitality space, and people fled to other jobs because of opportunity, because of skill set, mostly because of need of opportunity. There just wasn't enough jobs, and they went into companies that offer great benefits. That a lot of hospitality companies don't have great benefits. Some do, but the 401ks, the pensions, the 3 or 4 weeks of vacation, the maternity leave. Not every hospitality group is offering such competitive benefits. So when people have left, in my experience, I haven't seen a large comeback, at least not recently. As far as loyalty, so there's always going to be a person that has a personality that is loyal. And there's just Labrador retrievers out there that are just going to be loyal. It's in them, right? And then there's
Is that an industry term, David, or is that one you
that's,
use?
yeah, yeah. I've heard we call them Labradors. Yes. They just love to be loyal, and it's a personality thing. And then you have others that you can create that loyalty, but is that really loyalty at the end of the day, right? And what am I saying? I'm saying bonuses. I'm saying benefits, and tier them based on longevity. So if you're with me for 1 year, you get a week vacation. 2 years, you get 2 weeks vacation. 3 years, 3 weeks. 4 years, 4 weeks, right? And then the benefit package, um, maybe it grows with time as well. The bonus structure, you're going to get 0.5% of EBITDA paid annually, and after 5 years, we're going to pay it quarterly. After 10 years, we're going to distribute it monthly. That's a good incentive. You have to pay people. We're working because we like it, but we're working because we need to, right? Nobody, I would love to be on the beach in Bora Bora, right? But if you give competitive incentives monetarily on top of other benefits, that's how you force loyalty, so to speak. Loyalty, not everyone's a Labrador, but you can have people stay with you long term if you're competing. Just like we compete for guests, we compete for staff, and to the victor goes the spoils. And with regards to um, customer relations, customer satisfaction, and AI is here to stay, and we need to embrace it. Now, what's the difference between a computer giving a person information and a person giving person information? What I mean by that is, if a guest comes to the restaurant and the host looks at the notes and it says that it's their birthday, maybe we say, "Happy birthday, Mrs. Johnson," right? And they had to put that information in there, and then I had to read it. Now, let's say that information was then communicated to the server with a chit that was handed to them, right? And it says, "Oh, so now they can say happy birthday, Mrs. Johnson." That's a person-to-person communication delivery system, right, if you will. And maybe we just replace that vehicle with an electronic vehicle, like an AI piece of software. AI is just software at the end of the day, and we can have on their handheld POS system. When you open up that table, it populates all the notes, and that was done automatically by a computer system. And then you eliminate the need for that person to tell you. So it doesn't cost you as much money. It doesn't cost you the likelihood that they will forget to say it or that they won't have time to say it. So there's efficiencies in that changing the vehicle of communication. And also, as AI gets better and better, and it's getting better very quickly, and it will continue at that speed, it's exponential growth. It's going to be indistinguishable from a real person on the phone and AI. You will not be able to tell the difference in a couple of years. Some of the videos that I see of people speaking that are completely AI generated, it's unbelievable. Now, you can kind of tell a little bit in some of the videos, but I've seen some where I'm like, wow, that looks very, very real. So if we can have that trend continue, which it will, you won't be able to tell if Sally from customer service is a robot or not. Just won't be able to tell. And is that good or bad? You know, there's arguments on both sides. There's pros and cons. But if it's indistinguishable from a human interaction, then there's more pros because it's cheaper, you know, and they don't get tired and they don't make mistakes and they don't make HR liable things. They don't curse out customers. They don't get mad. They don't quit. They don't get pregnant. They don't do, you know, it's just very efficient.
You don't pay them bonuses.
Right.
Yeah. Or vacation time. You don't need to do vacation times. Yep.
No, I hear you. I just I I guess that transition, as you very well highlight where it's going to be, through that transition and the focus on expenses, it's very quick for me to leave a restaurant within seconds to get a, how would you rate us? Right? Yet at the same time, I wasn't even able to talk to anybody until I showed up. And it's not that my server who gave me a good experience is sending that out because he knows I left him a 30% tip, right? But the ask, but it really comes across more of a demand to rate, right? Makes there's just maybe there's an opportunity there. I don't know, but there has to be or could be a better way through this transition period. It's like the old adage, I guess this is, and it's when you call somewhere and say, thank you for calling, our calling system has changed. It hasn't. It's been the same for 5 years and you have the same message. You're going through this transition right now, and the most important thing is that customer's wallet, and for them to become your best salesperson and for them to want to return, depending on how experiential the location you are. If the ASP is extremely high, you might not see them again for a year. Others you want to see monthly or whatever. There has to be a way, or it'd be great if there was a way for that experience to have a little bit more customer element to it. Some places you see it, but maybe there's just not an answer. Maybe
No,
it's just I need to enhance my Yelp reviews. I'm not really sure.
no, I think that you make a good point. But I would just say that there needs to be a difference between the way that we deliver that message and the content thereof, right? So just because it was executed by a computer doesn't mean that it's a right or wrong message. What does the message say? And you're right. How much time went by before I'm asking for another ask? And if it's too short of a time, shame on the business, not for doing so with a computer, but doing so in a way that's bothersome. We don't want to bother people. You know, we're hospitality makers. It's all about making people feel good, welcome, having great experiences. And yes, I want to know how that experience was. And yes, I want to continue to engage with you and invite you back and gather data and have those touch points that I can solidify you as a long-term repeat customer. But you have to do it right, with the finesse, with professionalism, and use that psychology where, like, don't bother me right now. I just gave you $400. Let me, let me get back to my house before you send me an email. You know?
Yeah. No, I hear you. Well, listen, I think this has been a great few minutes that we were honored to be able to spend with you, David. And we'd love to have you back on the show if you have the time. I know you've got a busy schedule and everything in life changes and it might get busier. And we wish you all the best. We like to tell good stories about everyone. But as we close this, is there any other message you'd like to put out there? I think we've given some people some great mind share and some thoughts. Is there anything that you'd like to close with yourself with respect to what we've touched on today?
Well, I would just like to give listeners the message that if you're looking for a job or you're looking for that promotion, see the vision, realize what you need to present, how you need to showcase yourself, and then don't stop selling for yourself. Don't get frustrated with the no's, because in today's competitive job market, where there's 400 applicants in 36 minutes for that job that you want. It's okay. Just keep on putting, you're only going to catch a fish with the line in the water. So keep the line in the water.
Yep.
Great
Well
message.
said.
Alex, anything you want to close with today?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I found this to be very valuable. There's a lot of content around this entire topic. So not all of it can be fit into one segment. So I mirror what Greg said, and we hope to have you back again. This was very valuable.
Thanks so much for having me.
David, thanks for joining us. Alex, until next time, have a great afternoon. David, thank you very much.
Thank you.